you for guests who've come today to hear a wonderful program. Our invocation will be given by Tom Carr, followed by the pledge and four-way test by Alan Treadway.
So let's remember a couple of Rotarians in our prayers today. Steve Hammer's sister is struggling with COVID. Bill Coles had an aneurysm in his leg. He's recovering from that and doing well. Robert Fiddler, we keep in our thoughts and prayers as he and Bob Bellenfant as well. So just keep those folks in your prayers as we go ahead. You bow your heads and pray with me. Our hearts are full, dear Lord, for the many, many blessings you've given us, for the fertile fields and the running rivers of our beloved country, for the time to live and enjoy them, for the freedom to walk with you, and for all these things, dear Lord, we are eternally grateful. Amen.
Matthew, join me in the pledge to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, with liberty and
Now for the four-way test. First,
is it true?
second,
Is it fair all concerned?
third,
Will friendships
and fourth.
will be beneficial to all concerned.
And in Jim Viller's absence, we certainly hope so. Let me ask everybody to silence cell phones if you can. We've had a couple of folks ringing those during our meeting. Don't make me use my teacher voice, y'all. No, we're good. I'm going to have to get Sherry Cost to whistle. All right, there we go. Thank you, Sherry. If y'all would turn off your cell phones and or watches, whatever beeps and makes noise, because we want to be able to hear exactly what's going on today. At this time, I'm going to get Jody and Lee to come forward. Jody's going to introduce Lee to our club with her packet.
The last time we introduced Lee, we didn't have everything put together. It was really quickly. And so anyways, I just wanted to introduce Lee Williams-Goodgine. She's a wonderful asset to our club already with the work that she's doing on the inclusive playground. And she's a dear friend. So congratulations. And here's your pin is in here and you can start wearing it to Rotary Club. So thank you.
All right. And we did promise you a surprise, and what a surprise it's going to be. So Sarah, will you come up here with Lee and Jody and introduce our surprise?
Come on up, Miss Jody. Welcome, everybody. Hello. We're so glad to see everyone here today, and we have some exciting news to share. As you all know, we are part of the inclusive playground team to go ahead and build an inclusive playground in the Brentwood community in our Granny White Park area so that children of all abilities can play together. And so I would like to ask anyone who's involved in the inclusive playground on any level, whether it's Rotary, non-Rotary, if you would stand, I would greatly appreciate it. So, you too. Michael Kaplan, you get to stand too. So thank you, everybody, as well. We really appreciate it. I'm going to ask for Mayor Little and for Nelson Andrews and Kurt Bednar to come join us at the front as well. All righty. And with that, I'm going to turn the program over to Lee to make our exciting announcement.
Several months ago, I got a phone call from my friend Jody Raw, and she said, Lee, would you be willing to serve on a committee to build 2 inclusive playgrounds in the city of Brentwood? And I kind of hesitated because I try to do too much. It's really hard for me to say no. But I accepted the position, and she told me that she would do a lot of the work, and then it turned into a whole lot of work for both of us, but it's all for a great cause. I'm doing this because of the daughter that I lost in 2019, doing this in memory, in the honor of her memory. But there's a family that lives in Nolensville. They're neighbors of mine. They have 4 kids. Layla is 6 years old, and she is in a wheelchair, and she has a muscular deficiency, and she goes for extensive training in the summers for therapy in Texas. And when I talked to her about the inclusive playground, because her children and my daughter had gone to pre-K over at Crockett Elementary, she said, when I think about a playground, my kids, my older boys, they're like, can we go play? Can we go to play at the playground today? And she said, I always stop and say, can we just, let's do something else. Let's go play in the backyard, or let's do this, because she knows that when they go to the park that they go to in Nolensville, that the only swing that Layla can swing on is usually occupied. Because Layla can't get up and she can't do the things that other children are able to do and her brothers are able to do. So we are super excited to be able to provide for the creation of these playgrounds. And I have to thank Devin McClendon. The first time I visited Rotary, he came up to me after the meeting, and I wasn't a member. I didn't really know who he was. And he said, there's this family, and they live here in Brentwood, and I really think that they would be interested in helping this cause. So I waited a couple of weeks because I was still trying to figure out what it was that Jody wanted me to do. And so then I reached out to Kara Peck, and Kara and Chris and Caroline, could you all come join us, please? Kara and Chris have started a foundation. It's the Miles for Miles Foundation. And they've done that in honor of their son, Miles. And she was so very excited to be asked to take part in the playground. We sent her all the sponsorship opportunities and the naming opportunities. And I could tell in her voice that this was something that she wanted to do, but maybe she had not even thought of doing before. And so why don't you come and make the announcement, Kara? No? Come on, Kara.
You have to stand here too.
I'll stand.
Lee and I did talk, and she sent me the information, and of course talked with my husband and the board of Miles for Miles, and we decided that it would be a great place for us to support, mainly because we are obviously, we live in Brentwood, and this park is special to us, and our community is special. And we wanted to give to something that we felt like represented Miles and his life, and what better way than to do that with a fun park. So that's why we decided to say yes to this. What else?
You want me to just talk about the name of the playground?
Oh, the name. We sent a little roster out to our donors and supporters and asked what names. We came up with some fun ideas we thought that would name the playground, which was the right that we got in the gift that we're giving Rotary in the building of this. So we have decided to name the playground the Miles Together Playground at Granny White Park. So in donating $350,000.
we're grateful to your family and for what you've done. I think we want to get a picture over here with the officials. Yeah. Okay. Over here, just slide over.
Tom Carr, would you come up and accept this check, please?
We're coming, Devin, we know. Devin told us to get in a little tighter.
Thank you.
So it's in the background.
Please do.
Yeah, one last thing. I just want to thank our city and Rotary who's made this possible. If you know anything about children with special needs, you know the opportunities are minimal. So I'm so grateful that you guys have opened this up to our community. So please know that for the families that this represents, it's going to be life-changing. So thank you.
I promise I'll sit down after this and you all won't hear from me for several meetings. In March of this year, Phil Mazzuca became the CEO of Williamson Medical Center. He served as regional president for Franklin-based community health systems prior to that. He was responsible for 37 of CHS's hospitals during the past 3 years. He has more than 39 years of experience in hospital management and he held his first CEO position at a 285-bed hospital in Coral Gables, Florida at the young age of 24. Phil holds a master's degree in healthcare administration and a doctorate of science degree in health sciences administration from the University of Alabama at Birmingham. He is also the fellow of American College Healthcare Executives. Phil and his wife Janice have made their home in Franklin for the past 13 years. It's my honor and my privilege to introduce you to Dr. Mazzuca, as I call him, Dr. Philanthropy Mazzuca, and also the Vision Master for Williamson Medical Center, as he has brought great vision to our community, and he's going to share with you today his vision, and it's exciting, and we just welcome you. Thank you.
Thank you, Lee. And, you know, I've got to start out with an apology. For those of you that heard that Dr. Phil was speaking today, I know you're disappointed now, so I'm sorry. I wanted to start off just giving you a little bit of my personal background. I've not met many of you, and I've lived here in the community for the last 13 years, but my job over the last 20 years has pretty much been on an airplane. I had responsibility for multi-hospitals and big systems, and pretty much was in hotel rooms and airplanes for a long time. In this role, I get to be home every day, which is one of the great things. So I grew up in the South. It may not seem that way because of the way I speak, but South Chicago is the South. I actually moved the first time below the Mason-Dixon line when I went to UAB for my master's degree. And I can tell you that I didn't know I was being insulted when I was called a Yankee, but somebody called me a Yankee and I said, no, I'm a White Sox fan. I learned a lot, being in the South. I learned that, one, you can cut something on. I learned that if you're fixing to do something, you don't need a tool belt. And I learned if you carry somebody somewhere, you don't have to lift them up. Other than that, I thought I was doing pretty good. I moved several times throughout my career. As Lee said, my first hospital CEO responsibility was in Coral Gables, Florida. At 24, at 26, I was in California and was a regional person for our company in California. I've been in the for-profit healthcare system model the entire 39 years until this position. Now, I was one of those guys that actually moved to California, not like what's going on today. So over the years, I've been exposed to hospitals in 23 different states. It's been hundreds of hospitals. And so I've got to experience things in many markets across the country. I got to be in some beautiful markets across the country. And the first time I came to Franklin, I think it was in 2001. And I was here for 5 years and I left to take on another big responsibility in a publicly traded company. And I told my wife when we left, I said, of all the places we ever been in the country, San Francisco, all these beautiful places, Miami, I said, Franklin, Tennessee is the most incredible place I've ever been. Williamson County is amazing. I said, that's where we're going to go back and that's where we're going to stay. And in my last two jobs, I was in corporate roles here in Franklin, Tennessee. And when this hospital opened up, I said to my wife, I said, you know what? I said, I've traveled most of my career. I've had a great career. This hospital opportunity has opened up. I said, what I'd like to do is I'd like to apply for the position so I can do something transformational for my community. I thought that I wanted it to be something where not only was it transformational today, but my child, grandchildren, their children and grandchildren would have something that they could be really proud of. So 6 months ago, I started on thinking about, after I was hired, where is it? Where have we been? Where are we now? And where should we go on a go-forward basis? So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about sort of that vision today. I'm going to talk a little bit about history. I'm going to talk just a little bit about the pandemic and then sort of where we are on a go-forward basis. Now, I was a Rotarian in Decatur, Alabama, and in our Rotary group, they were known for throwing dinner rolls at the speaker. So I see you don't have the baskets of dinner rolls on the table. When I walked in, I saw them back there and I go, oh no, I wonder if that's a Rotary thing. The good news is I'm short enough to be pretty covered up by this podium. So there's just a little room that you've got to hit me. So I'm going to start out just telling you a little bit of the history of the hospital. This is not moving. I did. So will I
Just point to me.
point to you? Okay. Do I need the pointer? Okay. So again, I'm gonna talk to you about our commitment to this community and things I learned about the hospital that I didn't know about, and talking to others in the community, things they didn't know about, to start off a little bit with history. That didn't work just like this doesn't. So let's go to the next slide. So this hospital was founded about 64 years ago. It was an idea of a local physician here in the community that believed Williamson County needed its own hospital. And in 1958, when it opened as a government hospital. It's a private hospital, a private act district hospital. So a lot of people in the community think that the hospital is a county hospital. It's really not. It's a standalone government hospital. We have a great relationship with the county, but it is standalone. And so the hospital started out, as you can see, as a 50-bed hospital over there on West Main Street. I only know that place as a place I get license plates. Many people I've talked to in the community were born there or have some type of association with that hospital. And it expanded a couple times over a 20-year period, and it went from 50 beds to 188 beds, I believe. And then in 1986, there was a decision made that I heard was a very contentious decision to move the hospital to its current location. And it opened up as a 144 bed hospital, so it was smaller actually than the hospital was on West Main Street. And in about, let me go to the next slide. In between 2000 and 2003, we added 2 new floors to the hospital. So that was really the first time that we had a significant expansion. We added a medical office building, the parking garage, and we expanded the ER a little bit in that time. So that was really the first time since we built it in '86 that we expanded. Since that time, there's really been nothing done to the infrastructure of the hospital. We added the Monroe Carroll Jr. Children's Hospital in 2015, a 16-bed pediatric unit and a pediatric ER. In 2019 and 20, we opened up the Bone and Joint Clinic, which is the orthopedic clinic that sits on our campus, and 6 OR ambulatory surgery center there. And in order to do that, because this community or the hospitals are under the certificate of need law in Tennessee, we had to de-license 16 of our med-surg beds in order to be able to add those 16 pediatric beds. But the CON allowed you to increase 10% of your bed capacity a year without a CON. And so last year we were able to add back those beds we de-licensed. And so now we're at 203 bed hospital. Let's go to the next slide. Go ahead. So before I get into this slide, you know, when I got to the hospital, I said, who are we? You know, what is it? What's important to us? Because I needed to understand who we were. And when you look at our mission, vision, and value statement, our mission is simple. We exist to meet the healthcare needs of the communities we serve. Very simple. In our vision statement, we say that we want to be the preferred provider for healthcare services in Williamson County and the acute care center of excellence for our area and our surrounding region. And so I thought about it, and I thought, are we meeting that commitment? And in our value statement, we have several values that we list in our value statement, but the one that really rang true to me is it talked about making sure we provide high quality service, making sure we have great customer satisfaction, and making sure we do it at a value. And so when I look at our statistics, and I'll show you these in a minute, and we talk about quality, I can tell you that we provide extremely high quality and are recognized for it, which I'll talk about in a minute. I can tell you that we provide extremely high customer satisfaction. And I know we are the low-cost provider in this entire market. Payers, patients, employers, they basically get that value at our facility comparing us to facilities in Nashville. And so I know we've been delivering on that promise and delivering on that commitment, but when I think about the future, I think about how do we continue to deliver on that? How do we exceed on our promise? And where do we have to go to do that? So key statistics. So doing this for the last 40 years, I thought about, when I thought about this hospital, I thought 200-bed hospital. I said, I've never run a hospital that small. My first one was 285 beds. And I thought, I wonder if it has much to offer. You know, it's a pretty small facility. And I didn't know the facility. In my mind, I grew up in Chicago. I think of Cook County Hospital. You wouldn't go to Cook County Hospital for your services. That's, for us, that's the Gun and Knife Club in Chicago. So when I thought about county hospital, I thought, okay, small county hospital, do they really provide a lot to the community? And I was blown away. So we treat over 159,000 patients a year in that 203-bed hospital. We do 13,000 surgeries a year in that 203-bed hospital. We have 28 ORs on our campus. I was talking to a friend of mine who used to work for me in another healthcare company, and he has a 250-bed hospital. I said, how many ORs do you have? He said, 12. I said, we've got 28. He said, oh my goodness, I've never heard of that. I've seen 800-bed hospitals that don't have 28. So we do significant volumes of surgeries. Here's another thing that sort of blew me away. A hospital this size would normally have 150, 200 max physicians, providers. And of that, you probably had 50 of them that would really be active at your hospital. We have 825 providers on our staff of a 203-bed hospital. They cover 70 specialties and subspecialties. This area here is rich with talented physicians. This area generates these Vanderbilt, and now we're going to have Belmont physicians coming out of Belmont. Physicians want to live here. I've had to recruit to areas that it would take us 2 years to find one physician, Scranton, Pennsylvania, for instance. I wouldn't go. And I'm trying to convince somebody to go. But here, we have the ability to recruit really talented people. And so for us, that sort of blew me away. I don't think I've ever had a hospital with that many providers and that talent ever. I think of that as the DNA. Does the hospital have DNA? The hospital has amazing DNA. These are the same docs that practice at Vanderbilt and Ascension and other places. These are top-notch docs. We as a hospital employ 41 of our physicians, and we have 1,900 employees. These are not only skilled employees, these are dedicated employees, and we'll talk a little bit about that, of what has happened over the last 18 months. Next slide, please. I'm not going to go through these. Again, when I think about what do we have to offer, we have significant services that we offer at this hospital. Almost anything that you would need before tertiary or quaternary care can happen in our hospital. Next slide. It's important to me that we make sure that we provide access to our community. We built the Bone and Joint on our campus, which is a beautiful facility, great services, but we've also taken that out into the communities with outpatient offices in those communities providing PT, urgent care, and those types of things. We're having one open in Brentwood off of Old Hickory in November. Next. We have access to outpatient imaging in multiple sites where you don't have to come to the hospital, and we'll continue to think about how we continue to expand those access points. Next. Here's something that's really special that just, again, blew me away as somebody that's been in this industry for 40 years doing this. So we provide the 911 EMS service for this county. But this EMS service is highly recognized, received many accolades for the care they provide. But here's something that's interesting. We are only one of 7 EMS services in the entire United States, and only one in Tennessee that can provide blood on site with the ambulance. We've saved people's lives that would not have made it if we could not have provided that blood at a location of a serious accident. We're only one of 7 in the US. I get goosebumps talking about this hospital because it's the most amazing hospital I've ever been associated with. And I've been associated with hundreds of hospitals. These things we do that people probably don't know about is something that I'm going to make sure the message gets out there. Next. Again, we're trying to put off-campus medical office building locations so that it's easier access to people in our community. You can see the different locations we have. A developer is building 20,000 square feet for us in Spring Hill right now. So again, we're trying to look at access for patients. Go ahead. And again, our walk-in clinics, we have a joint venture with Vanderbilt where we've put up walk-in clinics around the community that are doing very well. So why are we different? Why are we different than somebody else coming into this market and put a hospital in here? It's because this is your hospital. This is your community's hospital. All we care about is one thing, our community. We don't care about a corporate parent. We don't care about stockholders. We don't care about other hospitals that we might have to think about that need some. We care about one thing. And that's that mission we have. Meeting the healthcare needs of the community we serve. That's it. So for us, it also means investing back into our community. The EMS service, that cost us $4 million a year out of our pocket to run EMS. We're asked to put EMS units in areas that we know they will lose money, but we want to make sure it's closer to people in those more rural areas of the county. I'm really proud of our EMS service. I'm proud of how we've grown this EMS service. We have 16 units right now on the road. And like I said, it does things that no other services can do. We have provided paramedic time and trainers to our high schools. That cost to us for the trainers is about $650,000 a year. That's our investment. You can see that we've spent about $250,000 in sponsorships. We do emergency response training for volunteer EMS and fire. And we provide a physician and nurse practitioner in 2 of the county's health clinics. And then we spend we give about $13.5 million a year in uncompensated and charity care. And these are just some of the things we do. We invest back into our community. Next slide. So our commitment. What's our commitment? I talked about our commitment to quality and patient satisfaction, and here's something really special too. So I've done this a long time. CMS rates every hospital in the US, all 6,000 hospitals, on a 5-star rating. There are only 455 5-star hospitals in the US. There's only 3 in the state of Tennessee. We are one of those 3. There's nobody in Nashville that has a 5-star rating. There's nobody around this area that has a 5-star rating. We are only one of 3 in Tennessee. It's the more I dug into it, the more I looked at what this hospital has to offer, the more that DNA resonated with me. We've got proof. The more people you talk to that use our services that tell me they didn't believe the care they got. They didn't believe that we saved a life because they didn't know us. I'm going to make sure everybody knows who we are. And as a community asset, we bring businesses, we bring residents to this community because what do they care about? Number 1, schools. Number 2, healthcare. And I've had many stories of people telling me that they came because we have healthcare close to home. We're available 24/7 to our community, and we've demonstrated that over the last 18 months. If you never believed it, now you believe it. These nurses and caregivers are tired, but they're resilient. They're dedicated. They risk their lives to take care of this community 24/7, 365. We are a major employer in Williamson County. We have 1,938 employees as of today. We spend $131 million. We pay them $131 million in salaries every year. That money stays in this community. That helps the economy. If somebody else came into this market, maybe somebody from Nashville, and put a hospital here, they may say, you know what, let's just have some services here that we can funnel there. And then that money leaves our community. The average tenure of one of our employees is 6.2 years. That's pretty amazing. We've got 6 employees that are there longer than 40 years. We have 87 that are 20 to 29, 35 that are 30 to 39. We've got a dedicated staff. And my focus is going to always be to elevate our service level. Take it to the next level. Make sure we continue to provide that passionate care and make sure it's at a value. So when I think about things, those are the things I think about. Next slide. I'm going to move through this fairly quickly because you guys have heard a lot about it. I had one comment before I started today. I said, I hope we're not hearing about the pandemic. Well, you're going to hear about it, but it'll be short. I don't expect you to read this slide. What this slide to me means, this thing hit us fast. In December of 19 in Wuhan, they figured out that there was something weird happening. There's a weird virus they couldn't identify. In January 21st, we identified our first case in 2020 of COVID. In January 30th, the World Health Organization declared a global health issue. And then as you go down, first of all, I want to do this because I'm sort of a fact kind of guy. So COVID-19, where'd they get the name? So it's coronavirus. It happened in 2019. So the CO from coronavirus, the VI from virus, and D is disease. So coronavirus disease was COVID. 19 is because it started in 2019. It was later named severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus 2, which was the SARS-CoV-2, because it was a cousin of an outbreak in 2002 called SARS-CoV. So to me, I just thought that was interesting because people think, well, where'd they come up with COVID? So we had our first death in February of 2020. And if you go through it, basically, we get to March where countries start locking down. This is from the end of December to March 17. We didn't know what was going on and countries start locking down. Nobody knew what this thing could do. When staff came to the hospital, they didn't know if they'd leave there dead or alive. They didn't know what would happen. They were there though. They'd go home and take all their clothes off in the garage before they go in the house not to infect their kids. We really didn't know what was going on. There was a lot of misinformation out there. There was a lot of people guessing. And then we go through the entire year. And then on December 11th of last year was when Pfizer was approved as that first vaccination that can be given. Next slide. I've heard everything about coronavirus. There's stories that I just shake my head. But do you remember when coronavirus first came out? And remember when people thought that you can get coronavirus from your dog? That dogs could carry coronavirus? This is true. I mean, this was a big deal. The World Health Organization had to do a study to determine whether dogs did or did not give you the coronavirus. And they came out and they said they didn't. So next slide. To be really clear, who let the dogs out? It finally made sense. The reason I put this slide up here is because when coronavirus first came out and everybody was getting nervous, it really didn't impact Middle Tennessee like it was impacting New York and Pennsylvania and places like that. I actually had Pennsylvania as one of the states that reported to me, and it was really difficult because we were making daily decisions about what we do with patients, not knowing what was really happening. I made decisions that the state told me not to do, but decided that it made common sense. And the state got mad at me for moving patients away in a nursing home from patients that weren't affected. They wanted us to keep them all in the same rooms they were in. I said, no, we're moving them. 2 weeks later, the state came out and said, no, you need to move patients away from these other patients because patients were dying in nursing homes quickly. It was like setting a fire. And so we were okay here in the beginning, and you won't see it, but that first little bump, that happens in July of last year. And all of a sudden we get through that bump in about a month and a half and we go, great, it really wasn't that bad here. And then you can see in September, we started going up again. And then we hit our peak in late January of 2021. For us, it was 58 inpatients in our hospital as a high. But that took 5 months to do. So we go back down, we're worried about spring break, we see a little blip in spring break, but vaccinations were working. We saw the elderly population getting vaccinated, and that's what I believe that curve went down like it did. Spring breakers weren't vaccinated, they were together, so we saw that little blip, but the original virus didn't really impact the younger population that much. All of a sudden, we get into the summer and we have nothing. We're like, it's over. It's not going to happen. Everyone's talking about this resurging. We're down to one patient. And then all of a sudden, at the end of July of this year, we started to see it go up. And we saw it happening in Missouri and Arkansas and Louisiana. And when it came here, the difference in what happened then and what happened this time, we hit our peak not in 5 months, but in 6 weeks. The pressure on the healthcare system across the country was incredible. We were all fighting with not enough staff. We're all fighting to scramble for beds. And we hit that peak again of 58 in 6 weeks. And I thought to myself, when's it going to stop? So you can see it started to go down, and I was worried that maybe this is just a blip. But today, after being at 58 a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, we're at 28. And so we're dropping dramatically. So that's a really good sign. I checked with my friends at Vanderbilt and Ascension, and they're dropping dramatically too. I think we're getting past this wave. Don't know what the future will bring, but we're getting past this wave. So I feel really good about it. Next slide. And again, just to tell you what we've done 27,000 COVID tests over the last 18 months. We've had 4,000 positive cases and had 1,400 hospital inpatients. In this wave, they were younger, 20s, 30s, 40s. This was spreading more than you've ever seen anything spread. It was like chickenpox. And these younger people, and I'm not being political, younger unvaccinated people were dying, leaving families behind. It was tough. It was tough on our staff emotionally. It was tough on me to think about that every day. So it wasn't just affecting the older population. The older population that was vaccinated, even if they had a breakthrough case, they most of the time weren't even hospitalized. So we saw our peaks like I talked about. Of our staff, 74% of our staff are vaccinated. The docs are more vaccinated than the regular staff, but I'm hopeful that will keep going. Next slide. And then here's your worldwide statistics. You know, the number of deaths in the world, Tennessee, and the US. Next slide. So the vision. What do we know? We all know the growth that's taking place in this county. It's incredible. We all know that by the year 2040, this population is expected to double from 250,000 to over 500,000. So as a healthcare provider, I've got to think about what does that mean to me? On top of that, when I did a study, it's showing me that the population over 65 is growing at over 25% over the next 5 years. And in some of our pockets of our primary service area in our markets, it's 37.5%. These are the people that are going to need hospital services. Next slide. So our plan is to continue to expand our service capability. It's to take the hospital to the next level. Because our goal is to keep patients here within our community. Nobody wants to drive to Nashville, park in those big parking garages if they can get the care here. Nobody wants to have their family members have to navigate that. So in my mind, I'm thinking, what do we have to do to provide those services to keep people here? We want to continue to focus on patient comfort and quality and safety and access. These are things that I'm thinking about as we're trying to determine what our plan is. We want to be able to plan a design that really meets the needs of healthcare today. So in 1986, when that hospital was built, our patient rooms are about 100, our med-surg rooms are about 190 square feet. We didn't have the technology that you can wheel into the room so that patient doesn't have to leave the room in 1986 that we do today. All those patients would have to go down to the radiology department or wherever that may be. We have to have bigger rooms. We also didn't have so much family input into the care of a patient like we do today. We have to make it comfortable for our families to participate, to be there with patients. It's really important to me to make sure that we not only think about the patient, but we think about the family member, the visitor, and those types of people when we think about design. We got to use lessons learned we learned over the past 18 months about social distancing and comfort, and think about things like, what if we have something else happen like this? There were no ICU beds in this home market. We were taking care of ICU patients in a med-surg bed using ICU staff. So I got to think about, if we're going to elevate the services, if we're going to be able to make sure we have enough critical care beds for our needs, if the 65 plus population is growing, I got to think about the ICU and the ED. And then we want to continue, no matter what, to deliver on our commitment to be the preferred provider of healthcare in this community, and to make sure that we are the acute care healthcare health provider for health excellence in our surrounding region. So next slide. I can't show you my plan because I'm probably going to release something in the next few weeks. I'm going to show you a couple little tiny pieces of it. So we've been working really hard over the last 6 months on a transformational plan for our hospital. You guys will be extremely proud of it. It will be state of the art. It will take care of those things I've been talking about into the future. Here's a picture of a new intensive care unit. Have you ever been into an intensive care unit that looks like this? Today, intensive care units, if the person wants to use the commode, they take it out from under a cabinet, pull the doors open, the commode comes out, it's right there in the middle of the room. You got a little curtain you can pull around you. This will have a full shower. The commode and the sink will be back in that, behind that door on the left, so you'll have comfort and privacy. You see the little waiting area in there for the family members to be comfortable, to be there with their family, to participate in the care. You see the space around the bed so you can bring the equipment in, and you don't see all these wires and things hanging from the back wall. You'll plug in those things, but you don't have all these big monitors and things that make you feel like you're in an ICU. This is part of what we're going to do. Next slide. Our NICU is basic 1986 type of NICU. It's a ward. There's curtains that you have around the bassinets and those types of things. We provide great level of care. But if the family member wants the privacy to be with their baby, if they want to breastfeed, whatever that may be, there really is not that great privacy today. This takes our NICU and turns them into private bays so that families can stay with the child more safe, more secure, more private. I wanted to show you more. If I came here 2 weeks from now, I'd probably be showing you more, but it's important for me to really launch it in an appropriate way, and we're just finishing up on financing and those types of things right now. But this is what I believe this community deserves. This is what I believe this community expects. This will take us well into the future. So I'm willing to answer any questions you might have. Is there another slide? I did want to say this. We do have a foundation, and Steve and Lee run the foundation, and people ask us, why do you need a foundation if you're being supported by the county? We don't get tax funding. We don't get county support. We have a great relationship with the county where we can go with them to get very low interest rate bond financing, but we have a foundation because we are a standalone entity. This is important to us, and not only is it important to us, the foundation also contributes to the community with scholarships for kids. The biggest focus of the foundation from my perspective has always been on children, whether it's NICU or pediatrics or scholarships for education. So this is important, but so I'll go turn it back to questions.
My son was born at a hospital in Davidson County, shower main ambulance, but might have to do it with Commodores. His care to his mother was provided by your hospital, and I'm gonna tell you, there was a night and day difference. And to this day, I still remember how much of an impression that made upon me. So my question is, do you have a lot of people like me that might have inadvertently made the mistake of living on the other side of the county line in Davidson County, coming down to your hospital for care versus maybe some other area hospitals because of the quality of the care that you provide?
We have probably 80% of our market share is going to be Williamson County. Now, we have a significant number of people that come from outside the county to us, less from Davidson County. Now, in the Brentwood area, we would get more where that line is, but less from Davidson County, probably because of proximity and probably because those hospitals do provide great care. It's harder to navigate and those types of things, but what's important for me is that we can provide care to anybody that wants to come to our doors. And this is going to be comfortable and safe and high quality and all those things I talked about. And so I think we'll start to see, we'll draw more from north of us, but right now, most of the patients we see are from Williamson County.
I'm just curious, when you mentioned your EMS that has blood, what has to be done to allow EMS to handle that?
We had to go through a 2-year pilot program because this is not something that was happening across the US. And so we signed up to go through a pilot program and our results were so favorable that we got formal approval. At the time we signed up for the pilot program, there were only 4 in the country. So if it's expensive, to maintain blood, you have to have really strict policies and procedures, how it's administered, when it's administered. And so it's not easy. It's not just having the blood because you have to have physician involvement and ER involvement and all those types of things. And so I don't know, we're also the only 911 in Williamson County. So there's not 5 different ones that maybe have 2 or 3 units. And so we're a pretty good sized EMS service. But it's something that's not easy to do. So if somebody wanted to do it, it'd probably take them a couple of years to get there. Yeah. I'll just say I'm the other kind of doctor, so I don't know how fast people bleed out. But I can tell you this, that I think more and more will want to do it, will want to emulate that. But again, only being at the time 4 in the country, there wasn't history to say to somebody, hey, this is what you should do and this is how to do it. They're going to use what we do as a roadmap for others that want to do it. They were so impressed with us that the study was supposed to continue, but they said, we're good. What you've shown us causes us to give you full approval at this point. They're going to use us to show others how to do it. But I hope others do it.
Okay, Dale, one more.
Well, the foundation is normally, well, first of all, Lee could probably do a better job than me on this, but our foundation has raised about $12 million over its time. And I know they focus on facilities for like the NICU. They focus on the equipment, those types of things. I don't know that it's a focus on a specific type of patient with or without money, but I can tell you this, and this probably most hospital people know this. We don't make money on pediatrics. We don't make money on NICU. So it really does go to those service lines that really are not supported in many other hospitals, but mostly toward children, I would say. Is that correct? Now, the foundation, when we announce our project, will probably support a piece of that major project and major transformation that we're going to do. But again, remember, as a nonprofit governmental facility, we take all comers. And that's why I showed you the uncompensated care and the charity care that we provide. So we're not looking at services just because they make money. We're looking at services of what the community needs, and some of those services cost money, even the EMS.
All right. Well, thank you very much
Thank you.
again. You can stay up here just a second. We have a program where we read to kids, and in the front of the books, we have our speakers signed so that when we read the books to them, we can also tell them about you, who you are, and what you do in our community. So if you would sign that for us with the pen that you may keep, we would appreciate that. And thank you again for what you've done today. We appreciate it so much.
Thank you. And I thought you were just giving me this because I'm old and I need these big letters.
Young at heart, right?
I was wondering if she thought because I was an Yankee, it has to be lower.
All right, Drew, can we introduce a couple of guests? We're kind of going backwards today, but we have a couple of guests that we need to introduce beyond who's here already introduced. Yes.
Because we do not have a wireless mic. We do have some visiting Rotarians. Some have already left us today, but we were glad to have Kirk Bednar and Nelson Andrews from the Morning Club. I don't know if Nelson is still here or not. There he is. Hey, good to see you, Nelson. Thank you for being here. We also have Daryl Blocker joining us from the Jasper, Indiana Club, who has joined us on a couple of occasions, so we're glad to have you here. And we also have a special guest from Old Mission San Diego Club, Tom Basham, and he wanted to share a banner with us.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Welcome. This banner is of the original mission in California, and we say our architect designed the banner, and he also designed the old mission. And if I could say one thing, the lady that gave me a ride here, her uncle Brew was Brew Bruder, the RI president in 1952, and her aunt was Annie Ann, one of the two original Rotary.
How about that? Thank you for sharing that with us. We do have some guests that joined us that are not visiting Rotarians. Tim Hill joined us as a guest of Jim Ryan. Thank you for joining us, Tim. Wendy Sturgis joined us as a guest of Sarah Johnson. Thank you for joining us, Wendy. Lee Williams had a number of guests today. Molly, Adam, Steve, thank you very much. Steve, also a visiting Rotarian. And Phyllis, I'm sorry. So those were our guests. I also want to say to the Peck family, thank you very much for joining us. This has been an amazing and inspirational meeting and program for us. You all are represent what is so good about our community and what we enjoy being able to do when we come here on a weekly basis. So thank you for your message and for your support. And with that, turn it back to you.
So we have one quote, and you've got that up there. Very timely. We're talking about healthcare. Remember to take care of yourself because you can't pour from an empty cup. Are there any more announcements for the good of Rotary? Yes, sir.
Membership retention committee meeting immediately following this.
Okay. Remember to put up your chairs against the wall, tables up.
We have inclusive playground signs for everybody. Please take one, take two, give them out. In the corner, there's a sign and a stand.
Also, there are cards on your table that tell all about this project. And I think you've learned a lot today, but you're going to hear a lot more about it as we go on. But we certainly appreciate your coming today. If Larry, you got 3 minutes.
Promised me 3 minutes. The Who line was wonderful. That was great. Just real quick, golf tournament, 72 hours from today, from this time, we'll be teeing off 132 golfers, full field. Everything looks great. I wanted to show you what we're doing this year on each hole, the pin with the flag on it that the golfers hit at. We'll have one of our sponsors' name on it. That flag will look like this. And then you turn it over, and it looks like this. So we'll have one of those on every hole for our sponsors. That's something new we're doing. It's really cool. We like that. I want to just say something real quick about a couple of our sponsors because we need to help these folks out any way you can. Okay, Lattimore Black Morgan Kane, been our lead sponsor for 5 years. They're wonderful, great accounting firm, full financial firm. They've been around Brentwood for years and years and years. So support them any way you can. Let them know that the Rotary Club is supporting them. They've been wonderful. Perry's Steakhouse, new restaurant, a major sponsor of our golf tournament. Everybody in the tournament is going to get a $50 gift card to go to Perry's and eat. So they have been very cooperative. They've been wonderful. They'll have a table there that day. Go to Perry's, and when you go, tell them, I'm from the Brentwood Rotary Club. Thank you so much for what you do. And lastly, Jane Covington, CSX Railroad, has been a platinum sponsor for every year, I think. Jane, thank you very much. Ride the railroads. There you go. Last week, I mentioned Jared, and I said the king is back. Let me tell you something we need to watch before 2 weeks from now. Mr. Andrews is also back, and his sponsorship total is going to be pretty amazing also. So the A team, as we call those two guys, are back in full force this year, and I can't thank y'all any more than that. So I just want to make everybody aware of that. So I'll let you know something in 2 weeks. I'll give you a full report. We did make our fundraising goal. We will let you know how much money I get to give to Tom Carr in 2 weeks. And hopefully, if my budgeting was right, we'll have a really nice gift for Tom. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Devin, for pinch hitting today for Lennis. It's no other for the good of Rotary. We are adjourned until next week. See y'all. Yeah, tables and chairs, y'all. Don't forget the chairs against the wall.